A child sits quietly with a book in hand. In that moment, a simple habit begins that will quietly shape an entire future. As days pass, the world grows louder, faster, more distracting. But one small choice keeps pulling him back toward reading. While others chase quick entertainment, he learns to sit still with ideas. And slowly, attention begins to deepen instead of scatter. Pages turn into patterns. Patterns slowly turn into understanding. What starts as curiosity becomes a quiet discipline. Not forced, but natural. Each book adds something invisible but powerful: clarity of thought. A way of seeing the world beyond surface noise. In another direction, attention begins to fragment. Short content replaces deep focus. Moments are consumed quickly, but rarely remembered. Everything is fast, but nothing stays. One path learns patience through reading. The other learns speed without depth. And without realizing it, two different ways of thinking begin to form. Time moves forward, and habits begin to show their weight. What once felt small now starts shaping how the mind works. In quiet spaces, reading turns into reflection. Thoughts are no longer rushed, they are explored. Ideas begin to connect across time. One page leads to another, building something deeper. Understanding is no longer instant, it becomes layered. And with that, thinking becomes sharper. In another direction, attention struggles to stay still. Everything competes for it and usually wins. Thoughts start but rarely finish. Focus breaks before depth can form. Decisions become quicker but not always clearer. There is movement, but little direction. Meanwhile, the reader becomes comfortable with complexity. Not everything needs to be simplified to be understood. Silence is no longer empty, it becomes useful, a place where real thinking happens. And slowly, without noise or announcement, one mind begins to grow deeper, while the other grows busier. By now, the difference is no longer subtle. It begins to show in how the world is understood. Reading has trained one mind to pause before reacting, to observe before forming conclusions. Meaning is no longer taken at face value. It is examined, questioned, and refined. Words become more precise. Thoughts become more organized. In the other direction, everything feels immediate. Reactions come faster than understanding. Information is everywhere. But clarity is harder to find. Attention keeps shifting, never settling long enough. Depth is replaced by constant surface-level input. Over time, this changes how problems are approached. One mind breaks them down, the other feels overwhelmed. Confidence begins to form differently too. One is built on understanding, the other on quick exposure. And quietly, the gap between the two continues to widen. Daily life now reflects the habits built over years. What once felt small is now part of identity. Reading has shaped the ability to stay with difficult ideas. To not rush, even when things are unclear. This creates a kind of quiet confidence. The kind that doesn't need constant validation. In the other direction, restlessness becomes normal. Stillness feels uncomfortable, even unnecessary. Attention seeks stimulation more than understanding. And silence begins to feel like something to escape. One mind builds connections between ideas over time. The other jumps between moments without linking them. This begins to affect communication. One speaks with clarity, the other searches for words. Not because intelligence is different, but because depth has been trained differently. And slowly, thinking itself begins to take on a different shape. At this stage, the difference begins to feel internal. Not just in actions, but in how life is experienced. Reading has strengthened the ability to sit with thoughts, to process emotions instead of avoiding them. This creates a deeper awareness of self and others. Empathy begins to grow naturally. In the other direction, emotions move faster than reflection. They appear, but are rarely understood fully. Distraction becomes the easiest escape. But it also prevents real clarity. One mind becomes comfortable thinking alone. The other depends on constant input to stay occupied. Over time, this shapes how meaning is built. One creates it, the other searches for it. And without any obvious moment of change, the inner world of both lives becomes completely different. Now the long-term effects begin to surface clearly. Years of habit start revealing their outcomes. Reading has built a mind that can focus deeply. Distractions exist, but they don't control attention. Complex ideas no longer feel overwhelming. They are approached step by step, with patience. In the other direction, focus feels harder to hold. Even simple tasks require more effort to stay with. The mind looks for quick stimulation, and without it, restlessness appears. One life begins to feel more intentional. Choices are made with thought, not impulse. The other feels reactive, pulled from one thing to the next without pause. This doesn't happen suddenly. It builds quietly over years. And by now, the difference is no longer small. It has become a completely different way of living. At this point, the difference is fully visible, not in one moment, but across everything. Years of reading have created depth, the ability to think clearly, even in complexity. There is patience in decision-making, a sense of control over attention. Silence is no longer uncomfortable. It becomes a place for real thinking. In the other direction, noise has taken over. Stillness feels difficult to hold. Attention slips easily, even when it matters. Focus becomes something that has to be forced. One mind moves with intention. The other reacts to whatever comes next. And over time, this shapes not just thoughts, but the entire experience of life itself. Now everything comes together. Years of small choices reveal their full weight. One life feels clear, grounded, and intentional. Thoughts are steady, not rushed. Understanding runs deeper than surface impressions. There is space to think, reflect, and decide. In the other direction, everything feels fast but scattered. Moments pass, but rarely settle. Attention is constantly pulled outward, leaving little room for depth to form. One mind has been trained to build meaning. The other has been trained to consume it, and that difference changes everything. From how the world is seen to how life is lived. This was never about being better or worse. It was always about what gets practiced daily, because in the end, the mind becomes whatever it repeatedly does. And the quiet habit of reading was never just a habit. It was a direction.